All right, chapter 5, we are talking about systems of equations for section 1, equation graphing refresher. So we're going to talk about one-step and two-step equations. We'll talk about distribution, all of those things that are loads of fun. For this first example, example A, we have x plus 4 equals -9. Now, to make things simpler, anytime you're given an equation and you're asked to solve or simplify or anything like that, let's draw a line through the equal sign, because this separates our equation to two parts, the left side and the right side. So the rule with solving equations is whatever we do on one side of the equal sign, we have to do it on the other side. So if I decide to add 100, don't write this down, but if I decide to add 100 on the left side, I have to do that exact same thing on the right side. Otherwise, I'm doing something incorrect. So whatever you do on one side of the equation, you must do on the other side as well. That's why I like to draw a line, because then I know whatever's on one side has to be on the other side. Now, with that being said, to solve an equation, we are trying to get the variable by itself. Now, the most common variable used with solving equations, especially in algebra, is x. So we're going to see this guy a lot. We may use other variables, but for now it is x. So to get x by itself, that means that we just have to get rid of all the other junk on the same side. In this case, it's plus 4. So to get rid of this plus 4, I need to do the opposite operation. So if I have plus 4, the operation is addition. I'm adding it. The opposite of addition is subtraction. So I will subtract 4, and again, I have to do it on both sides of the equation. So notice what happens. I have plus 4 and then minus 4 underneath it. So when I have plus 4 minus 4, so in other words, 4 minus 4, that equals 0, right? So you can plug that in your calculator if you don't believe me. But 4 minus 4 is 0. So this will all just simplify to 0, which means all we're left with on the first side of the equation is x, which is great because we want x by itself, because then we've actually solved for it. To finish the problem, though, we have to look at the right side, because I also subtracted 4 on the right side. So over there I have -9 minus 4. So if you're not confident with your mental math, I would use your calculator, plug in -9 minus 4, you should get -13. So that is how we do a one-step equation. Looking over at question B, there is a little more to it, but this is still a similar problem. First, draw a line through the equal sign. So now I have a number in front of my variable. That means that I'm taking that number, in this case 4, and I'm multiplying it by x. So we assume that multiplication is happening between the 4 and the x. Okay, we'll deal with that here in just a sec. First, let's get rid of the -9. So to do that, like last time, we do the opposite operation. So the opposite of subtraction is addition. So I will add 9 to both sides. -9 plus 9 simplifies to 0. So on the left side, I am left with 4x. On the right side, I have 11 plus 9. That is 20. Okay, so we're not done. X is not by itself yet. I still have a 4 with it. So earlier I said if it's 4x, we think of that as 4 times x. So you can think of this, there being multiplication happening between these two. The opposite of multiplication is division. So to finish this problem, I will divide both sides of the equation by 4. Because notice, if I have 4 in the numerator and I divide that by 4, that just simplifies to 1, right? 4 divided by 4 is 1. If you don't believe me, just plug that in your calculator and then check it. So if I have 4 divided by 4 giving me 1, all I am left with is the x. And then on the right side, we also divided by 4. So 20 divided by 4, you can use your calculator, but that should give you 5. Okay. Problem C. This is extremely similar to the problem we just did. I want you to pause the video, try this one on your own. Once you think you got it, or if you're struggling too much, hit play and check your work. All right, you should have gotten x equals 2. If you did not get that answer, double check your work. If you're confused, just talk to your teacher and see if they can explain it to you. Moving on, problem D. All right, we're adding another new element. Now we have this parenthesis with a number on the outside of it. So I have a parenthesis with 6p plus 4, and then I have a number on the outside of it. So first thing, notice we have a different variable. That doesn't really matter. Whatever letter we use, that's fine. It's just a variable. So don't be thrown off by that. But this 2 on the outside, what do we do with that? Well, we're going to distribute it. So that means I'm going to take it and multiply it by every term inside of the parenthesis. So I'll have to take 2 times 6p and 2 times 4. So let's go and do this. Draw your line through the equal sign. 2 times 6p. I'm just going to multiply the numbers together. So 2 times 6 is 12. And then, because it was 2 times 6p, I still have that variable p. I bring the plus sign down as well. And then I have 2 times 4. That is going to get me 8. Nothing changes on the right side of the equation. Next step, I need p, which is our variable, by itself. So to do that, I'm going to get rid of that plus 8. So I'll do the opposite operation and subtract 8 from both sides. This will give me 12p on the left side, and then 92 minus 8, I believe that is 84. Use your calculator if you're unsure. Last step, I need to divide both sides by 12, and my final answer should give me 7. All right, looking at problem E. This is very similar to the one we just did. Draw a line through equal sign. Now I'm distributing 8 into this parenthesis. So first, I'm just going to write the left side of the equation because I'm not going to do anything on the left side just yet. So 144 equals 8 times 4x. We would take 8 times 4, which is 32. And then we keep our variable x. Then we have 8 times 2, which gives us 16. But also, double check, we have a subtraction sign. So it's 8 times 2, but inside the parenthesis, we have a minus sign in front of the 2. In the previous problem we did, it was a plus sign. So I brought that plus sign down after I distributed. So the only thing that'll change with this problem is it's a subtraction sign. So instead of a plus sign, I'm bringing my subtraction sign down here. Okay, so keep track of the negatives. Okay, now we need to get x by itself. So remember, our variable x is what we are solving for. So we need to get everything else on the other side. So I need to get rid of the minus 16. So I will add 16 to both sides of the equation. That should get me 160 equal to 32x. Final step, divide both sides of the equation by the number being multiplied with x. So in this case, that is 32. Use your calculator. I would highly, highly recommend that. Do 160 divided by 32, and we should get 5 equals x. All right, moving on to problem F. Another similar problem. We can already tell we're going to have to distribute, but notice the difference. I see x as a variable on this side, but I also see x as a variable on this side. Interesting. So, oops. Go back to my marker. Draw a line through the equal sign. So we need to get all of our variables on the same side. Now, before we do that, let's go ahead and take care of the distribution. So we have a 2, and we need to distribute that to both parts of the parenthesis. So 2 times x is just 2x. 2 times 1 is 2, and I will bring down the plus sign like that. So nothing happened on the left side of the equation during that step. Now, here's where we got to be careful. We need to get all of our variables on the same side. So again, I see an x here and I see an x here. Technically, you could do it either way. You could subtract x from both sides, which would put all of our variables on the right side, or I could subtract 2x from both sides, and that would move all of my variables on the left side. If you want to avoid extra negative signs, I would always move your variables to the side of the equation that has the bigger number with the variable. So in this case, we have x and 2x. 2x is bigger. So I want to avoid extra negatives if I can, because they make my life harder. So I'm going to subtract x on both sides. So minus x on both sides of the equation. So x minus x on the left side is 0, so I am just left with -5. Keep track of that negative sign. And then on the right side, 2x minus 1x is just x. If you don't remember, just a quick little refresher, if I ever have x written with no coefficient or no number in front of it, we can assume that there is a 1 in front of it, because if I take 1 times x, well, that still just equals x, right? But if I take 2 times x, that's where we get things like 2x, okay? So if you ever see x, we can assume it is 1x, and that can help us in problems like this where we have 2x minus x. So another way to have written this would have been to say 2x minus 1x, which will just give us 1x, okay? But I'm not going to write the 1 there, but that was just to help explain. So we did 2x minus x, and that's how we got here. And then I still need to bring down my plus 2. Don't forget that. Now we are almost done. To get x by itself, I will subtract 2 from both sides of the equation. Your final answer should be -7. Okay. Now these are starting to look scarier, but don't worry. It's a lot of the same stuff. We'll just have some extra steps. So, looking at this one, again, we have variables on both sides, but there's multiple of them. So go ahead and highlight them, or just point out where they are. I got, well, I guess I'll keep the negative sign. We have -8x there. We have a -8x over here. And then I also have this -7x inside the parenthesis. So lots going on. Let's take a look at something. If I ever have an equation and I have two things, or I have one thing on one side of the equation and the exact same thing on the other side, there's a quick and easy way to just get rid of those, and it's just less to deal with. So what do I mean by that? If I have -8x on the left side and -8x on the right side, if I wanted to move either of these, I would need to do the opposite operation, right? So I would add 8x on both sides. But notice what happens. If I have -8x and I add 8x, well, -8 plus 8 is 0. So what that means is these will add to 0, so they just kind of disappear. And then these also add to 0, and they also disappear. So I've just eliminated this unnecessary piece in my equation. And so now I'm just going to bring down everything that's left. So on the left side, I still have -7. So I will write -7 on the left. And then on the right side, I have all of this. So let's see, we have -7. Oopsies, that's my highlighter. We have -7 parenthesis, -7x plus 8, close parenthesis. So this is much, much more manageable than what we had previously. Next, we are going to go ahead and distribute with this whole piece here. So I will take my -7 and distribute it to both terms inside of the parenthesis. So draw my equal sign, and then I'll just bring that -7 down because I'm not doing anything on the left side of the equation yet. Now, focusing back over here, negative 7 times negative 7x. You can use your calculator, but we're going to multiply the two numbers, negative 7 times negative 7. If you do that, you should get positive 49x. So a negative times a negative will give us a positive. Then I'll take negative 7 times 8. So negative 7 times 8 is going to be negative 56, because we're taking a negative times a positive. Okay. Now we are close to being done. We got 2 steps left. My variable x, let's make sure we haven't lost it. It's right here. So I need to get that variable by itself. So I'm going to focus on the negative 56. Opposite operation, I will add 56 to both sides of the equation. Those add to 0. So on the right side, I have 49x. And then on the left side, negative 7 plus 56. You can plug that in your calculator, but that should give you positive 49. This is looking kind of nice. I ran out of room, so I'm going to bring all of this up over here and just rewrite this last step that I have. So 49 equals 49x. Draw my line. Now, to get x by itself, what do we got to do? Well, the opposite operation of 49 times x. So I'll divide both sides by 49. Notice what happens. Over here, 49 divided by 49 with the x term, 49 divided by 49 is just 1. So I'm left with 1x, or, like we said earlier, instead of writing 1x, it's just x. And then on the left side, 49 divided by 49, well, that's just 1. So our final answer is just x equals 1. So kind of interesting. We had this entire big mess of a problem, but in the end, it simplified to a really simple answer. Okay, these ones are kind of tricky, so let's do another one together. Draw the line through your equal sign. Big thing to notice, we have this set of parentheses, and then we also have this set of parentheses. This means we are going to distribute twice. So first, I'm going to look at this yellow one that I did. So I'm distributing 4 into both of these. So when I do that, 4 times 3x gets me, let's write out here, 12x. And then 4 times minus 4, that will be minus 16. Moving to the second parentheses, I'm distributing the 8. And notice I have a minus sign in front of the 8 that I'm distributing. So I'm actually distributing minus 8 or negative 8, depending on how you say it. So as we do that, if I have minus 8 times 3x, that will be, oops, keep switching to the wrong color. That will be negative 24x, because we're taking negative 8 times positive 3, which is negative 24. Then we'll take negative 8 times 5, and that is just negative 40. All right, and then we didn't do anything on the right side, so this all still equals negative 80. Next thing we want to do is combine all of our like terms on the left side of the equation. So I have 12x, and then I also have negative 24x. Since both of those terms have the variable x, I can combine them, or I can combine the numbers in front of x. So this is as simple as doing 12 minus 24. I just combine the two numbers, or the two coefficients. So 12 minus 24 is negative 12. And then the variable with those two terms is x. So it's negative 12x after we combine 12x and negative 24x. The other two like terms that I notice are negative 16 and negative 40, because those are just whole numbers. So I can combine those as well. So negative 16 minus 40 is negative 56. And this all equals negative 80 still. Now this looks pretty familiar. To finish out, we'll add 56 to both sides. This will give us negative 12x on the left. And let's see, negative 80 plus 56, negative 24. Last step, divide by negative 12. And you should get x equals positive 2. Okay, I want you to do these last two problems on your own, so pause the video, and then once you're done, unpause and check your work with mine. Okay, check your work with mine. If you got a different answer, look and see where you made a mistake, and then go ahead and correct your work.